and so are we, by the riches of this new university we occupy. We have gone past the memorable 19th century Chicago newspaper credo, just print the news and raise hell. That does remain a stirring rallying cry, but the fact is we live in a far more complex world now. News and information and delivery systems. As this new world takes shape beneath our feet and before our eyes on a daily basis, we cannot just randomly stumble forward, guided only by instincts for that day's survival. But neither can we be dismissive of the appetite of viewers and readers for a rich variety of choices, engagingly presented, whether serious or trivial. I said at that time, and I believe even more firmly now, we owe it to ourselves, our calling and place, raised to a higher station, a constant and wide-ranging dialogue on the powers that we have been privileged to exercise, powers of journalism in a free society. I hope that this evening, in some small way, will be a part of that necessary quality. So I command you, go forth and commit journalism within the trenches and on the high ground. To do it every day that you can. Thank you all very much. Now we have two gentlemen with microphones who were rejected contestants on American Idol. So, if any of you have any questions, we'd be happy to try to answer them.
Tom, not that we want to be, advocating anything illegal or collusion, but has there been any talk on the East Coast about any kind of higher antitrust exemption as an industry to maybe get a micropayment for things that we're putting out electronically?
I don't think micropayments work. I would rather
Macro payment?
I don't think macro payments. I read Walter Isaacson's cover story in the New York Times, and it seems to me one of the issues that we have is that these habits are moving at warp speed, and they're very generational. And I don't think we have enough young people in on the debate, frankly, to hear from them about what it is that they want. Now, I happen to believe that young people are going to start paying a lot more attention, because between the time this graduating class that I talked to on Saturday and Sunday, those two graduating classes, from the time when they entered college and when they leave school, conditions have changed radically in their lives. My guess is that many of them have had their credit cards pulled by their parents, that they have a lot more college debt than they expected, and there are no jobs out there. So my hope is that they're looking more diligently at traditional forms of journalism to find out what is going on. So on the antitrust business, there is a fair amount of discussion about that, and kind of using the baseball clause of finding ways that the New York Times and Washington Post can have some joint enterprises, if not joint operating arrangements. I think that that's one of the things that we need to do. But the way that we can make that happen as practicing everyday working journalists is to constantly remind people about why journalism is important. I must say I'm very encouraged as I go around the country. I was in Tulsa last night, a very conservative town. I think that they probably believed that I was a representative of a communist cell in New York. But nonetheless, the people in the room were very heartening to me, really were concerned about the future of journalism, what's going to happen with newspapers, because they've come to the realization that they not only rely on it, but they're going to need that in our society. So it's beginning to happen, but we're constantly behind the curve. And we need to find these new forms fairly swiftly, or we're going to see a lot more newspapers and even local television, especially, struggling a lot more than it already is. In this economy, it's going to hamper those. Ad rates are way down. People aren't buying. As I said to one of my colleagues the other day, I've been through this before, what happens with advertisers is that they adapt. They don't have to buy when times are bad. When times get good again, they say, we don't have to spend as much money. We found other ways of doing it. That's a big, big, big concern of mine. Let me just say something else about generations. I'm a judge in a couple of pretty significant journalistic competitions. One is the Livingston Award, 35 and under. These are kind of the Pulitzers for the young. It's breathtaking to me, the quality of the work that we're seeing. But it's 3 and 4 parts in many instances, both in print and electronically. I don't know who under 25 is reading a 3 and 4 part series, because their lives are really defined by 146 characters on Twitter, or a shorthand on an email or something. I think it's more than just a crisis of journalism's future. I think that the country, which needs to depend on these young people, needs to say to them, shape up. Life is more than 146 characters at a time. Boy, do I sound like an old fool. Any other questions? Any answers? Here's it, right here.
I suspect you remember that Otis Redding saying, you don't miss your water until your well runs dry. I wonder to what extent are we battling a sort of good riddance idea that, I remember Watergate. I remember you reporting Watergate, though I was a 7-year-old boy. I remember the resentment of some people about, not about what the government had done, but about what the journalistic community had done. I don't know how prevalent that is, but to what extent are we battling that, and how can we, as you say, go to work to counteract it?
We're, I'll give you a couple of lines about that. One is, I had a great friend in Watergate days. There was a wonderful old, venerated journalist in Washington named John Osborne, who wrote for the New Republic. He's been around forever. And when we get criticized, he'd say the problem with journalists is they have glass jaws. He said they swing punches all day long, but if somebody takes a swing in, they go down in the first punch. I think one of the things that we have to do, I really do believe we have to get proactive. I think we have to start almost public service campaigns to remind audiences why